You don't wait for success, you manufacture it, piece by piece, illusion by illusion, because the world doesn't care who you are. It only reacts to what it sees. You act successful long before you become it. That's not deception, that's design. The powerful don't beg for recognition, they command it through presence. Machiavelli understood this truth centuries ago. It's safer to appear powerful than to live powerless, waiting for approval. The crowd follows confidence, not credentials. So, you create the image before the empire. Every move, every word, every silence, calculated. Your appearance becomes your weapon. You walk like you already belong where others are still crawling to reach. Because people believe in certainty. Show them certainty, even when you're still sharpening your blade behind the curtain. Your illusion becomes your armor, your reputation, your leverage. Remember, power is perception before it's possession. If you understand that, comment below, I control perception, therefore I control power. Say it again. Let it burn into your identity, because that's where transformation begins, not in truth, but in the illusion you masterfully control. 1. The theater of control. Power is not about strength. It's about control. Control over perception, reaction, and emotion. Every moment you're performing, not for applause, but for advantage. The stage is life, and you are both actor and director. You choose your mask, you decide the script, you command the audience. The weak crave validation, the strong manufacture it. They understand that humans don't follow truth. They follow conviction wrapped in confidence. That's why you never show your entire hand. Mystery multiplies influence. A predictable man is powerless. A controlled man is untouchable. When they push, you don't flinch. When they provoke, you don't react. You hold your composure like a blade pressed against their throat, silent, sharp, and unnerving. Machiavelli taught that men are simple. They trust appearances and obey fear. So you build both, an image that inspires trust and a presence that whispers danger. Be calm, but never harmless. Be humble, but never small. Be silent, but never ignored. You are the architect of perception, the puppeteer behind the curtain. The more disciplined your image, the more chaotic the world becomes for those trying to read you. If you understand this, comment below, my control is my weapon. Repeat it until it becomes your instinct, because in the theater of control, the one who feels least rules most. 2. The calculated persona. Every powerful man is a construct, a carefully engineered illusion of dominance, control, and certainty. He is not born that way, he is built, brick by brick, scar by scar, decision by decision. The calculated persona begins with awareness of your weaknesses, your emotions, and your impulses. You do not suppress them, you weaponize them. Anger becomes focus, pain becomes clarity, rejection becomes detachment. The average man reacts. The strategic man anticipates. He reads the room like a general studying terrain. Every face, every tone, every hidden agenda. He says less, but observes more. Because words reveal emotion, and emotion reveals leverage. Your persona is your armor. Every expression, every gesture, every silence, rehearsed until natural. People don't follow truth, they follow presence. So you become presence. You make others feel your discipline without declaring it. Cold, calm, deliberate, like a man who knows too much and needs nothing. That is the Machiavellian advantage. Power isn't seized with emotion, it's maintained with restraint. When they test your patience, they're really testing your control. When they question your silence, they're revealing their weakness. Because silence unsettles the insecure. So craft yourself like a weapon, beautiful, dangerous, and unreadable. Don't reveal intent. Reveal outcome. Let them guess your purpose while you execute your plan. Your goal isn't to impress, it's to imprint. To make your presence linger in the mind of every observer. If you understand, comment below. My silence speaks louder than their noise. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Because when your persona is calculated, your enemies lose their strategy. 3. Mastering emotional detachment. Emotional detachment is not weakness, It is the highest form of strength. The man who cannot be emotionally manipulated cannot be controlled. People want you reactive. They feed on your emotion, your frustration, your validation. Every time you overreact, you hand them your power. So you learn to pause, not out of fear, but out of precision. Machiavelli understood this well. He knew that emotions are weapons for those too weak to wield logic. A ruler who reacts with rage loses loyalty. A man who speaks from impulse loses respect. And a thinker who shows his heart too freely loses control. To master emotional detachment, you must separate feeling from function. You don't stop feeling, you simply stop acting on feelings. Pain becomes data. Anger becomes strategy. Sadness becomes silence. Coldness isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's the calm of a man who refuses to drown in the chaos of others. You remain centered while everyone else spirals. You hold your tone steady when they scream for reaction. You walk away from chaos with composure because chaos feeds on attention. This is not about being heartless. It's about being untouchable. You choose what deserves your emotion and what does not. Because not everything deserves the energy of a king. When someone disrespects you, remember, silence wounds the ego louder than any response. When life tests you, remember, stillness terrifies those who can't control you. And when temptation calls, remember, real power is the ability to say no when every nerve in your body screams yes. Detachment is discipline. It's not the absence of care, it's the mastery of reaction. If you understand this, comment below. My emotions serve me, not control me. Say it again. Because the moment you detach from emotional influence, you stop being part of the game and start controlling it. That's how you rise, not by force, but by composure. Not by reaction, but by restraint. The man who controls himself controls everything. 4. The art of strategic silence. Silence is not emptiness. It's a weapon, and only the disciplined know how to wield it. In a world where everyone screams for attention, silence becomes power. It creates tension, it breeds curiosity, it unsettles the insecure, because silence forces others to face themselves, and most people can't handle that. You see, the loud man reveals his limits. The silent man reveals nothing. He's unpredictable, unreadable, unbreakable. Machiavelli understood that control begins with perception, and silence bends perception in your favor. It lets others project their assumptions while you remain the mystery they can't solve. The truly powerful don't waste words explaining themselves. They let results speak in whispers louder than any declaration. Every silence you hold adds weight to your presence. Every pause you command builds anticipation, and anticipation breeds influence. The weak try to fill silence with words. The wise fill it with meaning, because the less you say, the more your words are worth when you finally speak. When you walk into a room, your silence should speak for you. A calm intensity that demands attention without a single sound. It's the aura of a man who doesn't chase energy, he controls it. People lean in when he talks because he rarely does. That's how authority is built. Not by volume, but by gravity. Strategic silence also exposes the impulsive. Stay quiet long enough and people reveal everything trying to break it. They confess, over-explain, and expose their intentions. While you observe, calculate, decide. The powerful man speaks only when silence no longer serves his strategy. Every word becomes a strike, deliberate, targeted, final. That's how empires are moved with whispers, not shouts. When emotion rises, silence is your shield. When doubt surfaces, silence is your discipline. When conflict begins, silence is your advantage. Because power doesn't need to prove itself, it only needs to be felt. Remember, the man who talks less listens more, and the one who listens more controls more. Silence is not retreat, it's recalibration. It's how you study the enemy before the strike. It's how you build pressure without movement, and it's how you win without noise, without warning, without mercy. If you understand, comment below. My silence commands respect. Let it echo in your mind, because true strength doesn't shout, it whispers with certainty. And the world obeys those who speak rarely, but always with precision. Silence is your weapon. Use it like a king sharpening his blade in the dark, patient, calm, and unstoppable. 5. Dominate through composure. Composure is the crown of the powerful. It's what separates men who react from men who rule. When chaos erupts, most people panic. Their emotions betray them. Their faces crack. Their voices tremble. But the composed man, he stands still, calm as stone, calculating behind the mask of indifference. That stillness terrifies people, because when they can't read you, they can't control you. Composure is not passive, it's tactical stillness. It's the pause before the strike, the breath before the decision. It's what Machiavelli meant when he said, men must either be caressed or destroyed, because to the composed man, emotion is leverage, his own and everyone else's. When you master composure, you master dominance. It's not the loud one who wins, it's the one who keeps his voice steady while others lose theirs. When they shout, you whisper. When they crumble, you adjust. When they panic, you plan. Power is never in reaction, it's in response. The man who stays calm while others burn becomes the anchor everyone depends on, and the one everyone depends on quietly rules them. You see, composure is not pretending to be calm. It's being calm because you already expected the chaos. You don't fight the storm, you become the eye of it. Cold, focused, untouched. When people see your restraint, they project strength onto you. They call it confidence, they call it wisdom. But in truth, it's control, a deliberate decision to never lose yourself, no matter the pressure. Machiavelli knew panic reveals truth faster than interrogation. So when the world tests you, smile slightly, say little, move slow. Because the man who controls his pulse controls the pace of the room. Composure also kills manipulation. No one can bait a calm mind. They'll try to anger you, insult you, make you prove yourself. But you don't play emotional chess with amateurs. You let them show their desperation while you stay unmoved. Your calm becomes your camouflage, and your composure becomes their confusion. Every outburst costs you presence. Every overreaction bleeds power. So you learn to breathe through conflict, to blink through chaos, to move only when it's time. That's how you remain untouchable. Not because you're emotionless, but because your emotions obey you. When you walk into a room, your composure should speak before you do. A calm aura that says, I see everything. I fear nothing. Because composure is rare, and in a world drowning in emotion, rarity is influence. People trust calm energy. They follow it. They surrender to it. Because deep down, every man wants what the composed man already has: control. If you understand, comment below. My calm commands power. Write it. Repeat it. Because composure is not a trait. It's a discipline. And once you master it, no chaos can shake you, no insult can pierce you, and no enemy can provoke you. You don't dominate by force, you dominate by remaining still when others fall apart. The man who remains composed in every storm doesn't just survive, he becomes the storm itself. 6. The law of indifference. Indifference is the rarest form of dominance. It is the quiet refusal to be moved. When you master indifference, you no longer chase outcomes, you attract them through detachment. The weak crave validation. They chase attention. They want to be liked, understood, praised, and in that chase, they hand over control. But the Machiavellian mind knows, whoever can make you react, owns you. So you stop reacting. You stop caring about opinions, applause, or the noise of lesser men. You become indifferent to everything that does not serve power, progress, or peace. Indifference is not laziness. It's discipline in its purest form. A deliberate decision to feel only what deserves to be felt. It's emotional fasting. You starve your ego until it obeys your intellect. Machiavelli wrote that men judge by appearances rather than reality, and that few see what you are, most see what you appear to be. Indifference uses that truth. You project calm while others leak desperation. You maintain control while they waste energy proving themselves. The indifferent man is unreadable. He doesn't react to insults, compliments, or temptation. He smiles when he could argue. He pauses when he could explain. He leaves when he could fight, because his silence costs them more than his words ever could. Indifference creates gravity. It draws attention precisely because it doesn't seek it. People are wired to chase what doesn't need them, so the more detached you are, the more power you radiate. That's why kings don't beg, they wait. Their calm becomes a magnet, their absence a message. When you're indifferent to praise, you become immune to insult. When you no longer chase validation, you start commanding it. This is the paradox of power. The less you care, the more the world bends to your energy. Indifference also breaks manipulation. Every emotional trap depends on your reaction. When you show none, the trap collapses. No one can control a man who doesn't seek approval, who doesn't fear rejection, who doesn't need to be understood. People will call you cold. Let them. They call fire cold because they can't hold it. They call silence arrogance because they can't tolerate it. They call detachment pride because it mirrors their weakness. Indifference doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you own what you feel. You choose where your energy goes. You invest only in what builds your empire, not what feeds your ego. So, when chaos comes, you breathe. When conflict calls, you smile. When disrespect appears, you disappear. Because reaction is free labor for your enemies. And you do not work for free. Understand this. Control isn't about domination. It's about selectivity. You choose what moves you, and that choice becomes your throne. Indifference turns pain into perspective, rejection into redirection, emotion into ammunition. It allows you to walk away from anything that no longer aligns with your purpose, without bitterness, without noise, without fear. The world expects you to care. Your calm confuses them. Your silence insults them. Your detachment destroys their leverage. That's why true power feels cold, because it burns without flame. If you understand, comment below, "I own my energy." Say it again. Let it sink deep. Because when your energy is yours, no one can weaponize it. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't break. You observe, you adapt, you rise. Indifference isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It's how you stay unshaken while the world loses itself. It's how you turn silence into command, stillness into authority, and detachment into dominance. In the end, the indifferent man wins not because he fights harder, but because nothing outside himself can touch him. 7. The psychology of influence. Influence is the invisible weapon of power. It is not about force, it is about direction. The ability to bend minds, shift emotions, and plant ideas without resistance, that is the true throne. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. It's not power itself that rules the world, but the illusion of it. And influence is that illusion, a psychological art that turns perception into obedience. Influence begins with understanding human nature. People are not driven by logic. They are driven by emotion, pride, fear, vanity, and desire. To influence them, you must first read them. To read them, you must silence yourself. Observe the tone, the eyes, the tension in their breath. Every word they say is a confession. Every silence, a clue. Most people want to feel important. That is the lever. Stroke their ego, not their intellect. Let them feel seen, understood, and superior, even when you quietly steer them toward your goal. Influence thrives not by confrontation, but by calibration. You don't dominate through noise, you guide through subtlety. The strongest influence feels like free will. The best manipulation looks like choice. You make them believe it was their idea, while every step serves your plan. That's not deception, it's strategy. Influence is the weapon of those who understand restraint, because those who shout their opinions lose authority. The ones who speak softly and precisely move mountains. Influence also requires contrast. You must stand apart. While others seek approval, you project certainty. While they chase belonging, you embody sovereignty. People are drawn to what they cannot define. Be unpredictable, calm in chaos, detached in drama, steady in storms. Your balance becomes their anchor. Your composure becomes their admiration. Never reveal your full intent. The mystery around your motives becomes magnetic. Let curiosity work for you. The unknown commands more attention than the obvious, because when people can't read you, they obsess over understanding you. And obsession is the purest form of control. Influence lives in presence. Before you speak, your energy should already be in the room. Every movement must convey purpose. Every silence must carry weight. Every glance must communicate authority without arrogance. This is not charisma. This is discipline refined into aura. Machiavelli said, "Men are more moved by appearances than by reality." So build the appearance first. Composure, mystery, certainty, and reality will follow its lead. Influence is not given, it's engineered. Every habit, every response, every word must feed the image of power you project. People trust what feels inevitable, so become inevitable. Speak with calm conviction, act with deliberate timing, respond with surgical precision. When others rush to impress, you move like a man who has already won. There are two kinds of influence, emotional and psychological. Emotional influence inspires loyalty. Psychological influence ensures obedience. You must master both. Win their heart, then guide their mind. Make them feel safe, then make them follow. Never the reverse. And remember, power that's feared lasts longer than power that's loved. But influence that's respected outlives both. Respect comes from restraint, from the rare ability to say less, do less, and still command the room. You don't chase attention. Attention adjusts itself to your gravity. The psychology of influence is not manipulation. It's mastery of understanding. Understanding how people think, what they fear, and what they crave. You feed those instincts just enough to keep them orbiting around your presence. Be the calm voice in a noisy world. Be the logic in a sea of emotion. Be the mountain that doesn't move, and everything else begins to revolve around you. Influence is not about speaking louder, it's about speaking smarter. Not about leading everyone, but leading the right ones. Not about being followed, but being remembered. If you understand, comment below. I move minds, not mouths. Say it again until it becomes instinct. Because influence is not earned through dominance, it's sustained through elegance. The moment you master silence, presence, and timing, you no longer need to chase control. It chases you. 8. Embracing the shadow. Every man carries a shadow. It's the hidden side of power, the suppressed instincts, the forbidden thoughts, the dark fire that polite society teaches you to bury. But the truth is this: the shadow isn't your enemy, it's your untamed potential. Machiavelli understood that the world belongs not to the pure, but to the aware, to those who know their darkness and direct it. You can't control what you refuse to confront. The man who denies his shadow becomes its slave. But the man who studies it, who understands its rhythm, its hunger, its purpose, becomes unstoppable. The shadow is your will, stripped of morality. It's the part of you that acts when emotion hesitates. It whispers when fear screams. It keeps moving when others freeze. It is instinct, sharpened by pain and guided by awareness. Society teaches restraint without understanding control. They tell you to suppress anger, desire, ambition, but suppression breeds weakness. Control, however, breeds power. You don't eliminate the dark. You discipline it. You mold it into an edge that cuts only when you decide. Your shadow is not the monster. It's the weapon forged from surviving monsters. It's the silent force that gets you back up when failure breaks the average man. It's the voice that whispers, "Get up," when the world says, "Stay down." To embrace your shadow is to become whole, to integrate the light and the dark, to know when to be gentle and when to be ruthless, because power demands both. The warrior who can only fight is a brute. The one who can fight and chooses when not to is a strategist. Machiavelli said, "It's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But the true master learns to be both, feared by the weak, respected by the strong. That balance lives in the shadow. The shadow thrives in silence. It doesn't need validation or permission. It only needs acknowledgement. A nod from the conscious mind that says, "I see you. You serve me." From that moment, you no longer fear darkness. You own it. Powerful men don't chase light, they carry it. Inside the darkness they've already conquered. Their presence feels dangerous because it is disciplined power disguised as calm. They have felt rage, heartbreak, and chaos, and they've built thrones out of all three. Embracing the shadow means embracing your capacity for destruction, without ever needing to use it recklessly. It means knowing you could end a fight, but choosing not to. It means understanding you could break someone's spirit, but instead, you study their mind. That's not weakness, that's mastery. When you integrate your shadow, your energy changes. People feel it. They can't define it, but they know it's dangerous. Not because you threaten them, but because they sense you don't need to. You've made peace with the side of you they're still hiding from. Every time you suppress your darkness, you feed it. Every time you understand it, you harness it. You don't reject your ambition, lust, or rage. You refine them into discipline, charisma, and focus. You turn chaos into clarity. The man who fears his shadow will always need external rules. The man who knows his shadow becomes his own law. He doesn't obey fear, guilt, or impulse. He obeys purpose. That's why the shadowed man walks differently. He doesn't look away when challenged. He doesn't crumble under pressure. He's already danced with his demons and learned the rhythm of control. To the world, he looks calm. But beneath that calm lies fire, ancient, patient, and waiting, not to destroy, but to dominate, to command every side of himself, not just the parts the world approves of. Machiavelli knew that men are ruled by necessity, not by virtue. When necessity calls, the moral mask falls, and only the prepared survive. So, prepare, study your impulses, know your rage, understand your hunger, then put a leash on each. That's not evil, that's evolution, because only a man who knows how to be dangerous can ever be truly good, and only a man who faces the dark can ever live freely in the light. If you understand, comment below, "I command my darkness." Say it again, not as a phrase, but as a declaration. Because the moment you accept your shadow, you stop being divided, and unity within the self is the highest form of power. In this world, light impresses, darkness intimidates, but balance rules. So embrace your shadow, not as an enemy, but as your silent ally, the side of you that feels nothing, fears nothing, and needs nothing. Because once your light and your dark move as one, you don't just survive the game of power, you become the game. 9. The discipline of isolation. Isolation is not loneliness. It is refinement. It is the forge where strength, strategy, and self-mastery are built in silence. The world fears solitude because it exposes truth, and truth is the one thing most people spend their lives running from. Machiavelli wrote that men should never depend on others for power. Dependence breeds weakness. Isolation removes dependence. It teaches you to stand alone, and standing alone is the first step to becoming untouchable. When you pull back from the noise, you begin to hear the hum of your own mind. At first, it's uncomfortable. You'll confront insecurities you've buried, distractions you've disguised as purpose, voices that whisper doubts. Good. That discomfort is the sound of transformation. The weak escape it with entertainment, validation, or company. The strong endure it, because solitude is not an escape from the world, it's training for it. It sharpens your perception, it filters your desires, it teaches you the discipline of doing without applause. In isolation, you learn the hierarchy of your thoughts. You discover what truly matters and what was merely noise wearing meaning. Your mind becomes organized, efficient, lethal. You begin to move with precision instead of impulse. That's when focus turns into power. The Machiavellian mind uses solitude strategically. He disappears not because he's weak, but because he's upgrading. He retreats to study, to plan, to reinvent. When he returns, he's quieter, but heavier. Every word carries weight. Every decision has direction. Isolation trains patience. It removes the addiction to instant results. When you sit in silence long enough, you realize that time bends for those who command it. You no longer chase opportunity, you craft it. You become the sculptor instead of the clay. There's a reason kings retreat to chambers, monks to mountains, and strategists to solitude. Noise corrupts clarity, and clarity is the root of command. But here's the truth. Most people cannot handle themselves alone. They mistake constant connection for strength. They think being surrounded means being significant. But connection without control is chaos. Isolation teaches control. It teaches you to be whole without needing to be seen. In solitude, you confront your reflection, the unfiltered version of yourself. No audience, no validation, just you and your truth. You will see your ambition and your fear standing side by side, and you will choose which one leads. At first, isolation feels like deprivation. Then it becomes discipline. Finally, it becomes dominion. Because the man who masters solitude never fears abandonment, rejection, or betrayal. He has already conquered absence. Machiavelli believed that the wise man learns from distance what fools learn from defeat. Isolation gives you that distance. You begin to observe patterns in yourself and others. You see motives before they move. You read silence before words. That foresight becomes your armor. The world runs on distraction. Isolation is rebellion against it. It's choosing depth over speed, substance over stimulation. Every hour you spend alone, building, learning, refining, you widen the gap between you and the distracted masses. They're busy being noticed. You're busy becoming necessary. Isolation also purifies ambition. When no one is watching, your motives surface. You see whether you act for approval or purpose. You find what you would still pursue if the world forgot your name. That's where real power is born, in goals that don't need applause to exist. Your routine in isolation becomes ritual. Wake, work, reflect, refine. Each repetition sculpts the mind into steel. Each silence becomes a meditation on control. Each day alone, a reminder that greatness is built in private, long before it's displayed in public. You will lose people. You will confuse them. They will call you distant, detached, even cold. Let them. They don't understand that solitude is not isolation from them. It's insulation for your vision. You're not cutting people off. You're cutting distractions out. When you master isolation, you stop chasing belonging. You belong to purpose. You stop begging for validation. Your results speak instead. You stop fearing silence. It becomes your strategy. A calm man who can sit alone for hours without need or noise is a threat in any room. Because he carries what others keep looking for, centeredness. That energy unsettles the untrained. They can't pull you because you anchor yourself. If you understand, comment below. My solitude builds my strength. Repeat it. Let it replace every fear of being alone. Because solitude doesn't isolate you from the world. It prepares you to rule it. In isolation, you refine your thoughts into weapons, your will into armor, and your silence into strategy. The man who can walk alone walks faster. The man who can think alone sees further. And the man who can thrive alone commands everything. When you return from the silence, you don't explain yourself, you demonstrate. And the world, loud and restless, finally grows quiet in your presence. 10. The ascension of power. Power isn't seized in a single act. It's accumulated in silence, discipline, and control. Every decision, every restraint, every late hour you endure while the world sleeps, that's where ascension begins. You've built your armor through awareness. You've sharpened your will through isolation. You've faced your shadow, mastered composure, and learned to move with precision. Now comes the final phase, ascension. Ascension is not about ruling others, it's about ruling yourself. Because the man who conquers himself no longer plays the same game as the rest. He dictates the tempo of his own existence. He doesn't need permission. He doesn't need validation. He moves like time, unstoppable, silent, inevitable. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, but boldness without wisdom leads to ruin. Your boldness must now merge with restraint. Every action must be calculated. Every step must echo intention. That's how power transitions from a spark to sovereignty. The powerful man doesn't announce his rise. He ascends in quiet increments. Each small mastery compounds until dominance feels effortless. While others seek crowns, he builds empires of influence, in mind, in presence, in energy. Ascension is the moment you realize you need nothing external to validate your worth. No praise, no approval, no recognition. Because everything you need, you've already cultivated in the silence of your own will. You've learned that control isn't about suppression, it's about selection. You no longer respond to noise. You no longer react to chaos. You only move when movement serves the mission. That's power in its purest form. Unprovoked dominance. A calm intensity that needs no explanation. If you understand, comment below, I rise in silence. Because true ascension doesn't shout. It doesn't plead. It doesn't seek. It simply is. You've walked through darkness, harnessed your emotions, and mastered indifference. Now you stand at the summit, not because the world crowned you, but because you built your own throne. Your journey isn't about becoming powerful. It's about becoming power itself. So rise quietly, walk deliberately, rule inwardly. And remember, the moment you no longer need to prove your strength is the moment everyone else feels it.